Hello, it's Jane here, and I was going to invite you to what was, until about 5 minutes ago, an absolutely gloriously sunny September afternoon up at the allotment, but just in the space of pressing record on that camera, realising I had the wrong battery in, putting the right battery on and pressing record again, the sky's gone black. So I'll be lucky if I manage to film this bit without getting soaking wet, to be honest. Oh, it's cobwebs. But what I want to do today, I want to show you how I harvest my chilies, which have been hugely neglected in the greenhouse on their own the whole season. But not just how I harvest them, but how I preserve them afterwards, which will include the making of this rather delightful little Ristra, which I'm very pleased with. So come on, I'll show you what I do and how I do it. Okay, so there we have it. Not the biggest chilli hoard you might have ever seen, but that's my stash for 2020. And as I'll show you later on, I really don't want any more than that because they keep for quite a long time. So let's go and have a close look. Okay, as I say, it's not a huge hoard. And if you remember when I potted these up many months ago, I hadn't even grown them from seed because, to be honest, I found that last year I spent such a long time trying to get the seed to germinate, looking after it, potting it up, nurturing it, for very little reward really. And when I saw these already ready to go as little seedlings in a pot of 6, I think it was, for £3, I thought, yes, they're a bargain. I'm not going to bother with the others. So yeah, so I did cheat. The downside of that is I've got no clue as to what variety they are. I know they're chilies. It just said chilies mixed. So if you're a chili expert out there, you might be able to help me. These teeny tiny ones here, I'm assuming are those very hot ones. And I don't know the names. Is it habanero? I don't know, I'm just saying names of chilies. But these are very small. And I think the very small ones have got more of a punch, more of an absolute heat. Whereas the ones that I'm more interested in, oh, look at that. Can you see that? Look, little fella. Oh, didn't want to go. Gone now. It's probably landed on a dahlia. So don't want to deal with that one just now. The ones I like are these ones. Now you can see I haven't got very many at all on this plant here, but there is plenty enough for me, plenty to be getting on with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to harvest them today because basically I just want to get something else out of the way. It's that time of year, isn't it? A bit of a clearing up time of year. Can you see? Can you see that? Yeah, you can just about. So I'm going to take all these chilies off. Even if it might only be single figures, I'm going to take all these off at once, and then the plant, as far as I'm concerned, is done. If you wanted them to continue fruiting, you would pick them as with any other fruit flower. You would just want to keep picking them to have the repeat fruit. But to me, this plant is done. And because of that, I mean, I don't know if you remember, I was actually asking a couple of months ago if anybody knew what these purple chilies were. And of course, they've all turned red. So it just took some patience. If I was harvesting these and I wanted to keep harvesting, I wanted to keep the plant going, I would lift them very gently. Let's see if I can find one to show you. There we are. You're going to be able to see that on there. I would lift it very gently in order to slightly snap the stem against the actual main stem of the plant, okay? And that would be the least damage to the actual stem itself. It'll heal faster. It shouldn't let in then other diseases that might affect later fruit. So that's what I would do if I wanted to keep the plant going. I don't, so I'm going to hack it to bits with my sewing snips. So I can just happily snip these off, trying not to get my own shadow. But what I am doing is making sure I am leaving that bit, and that is very particular to how I'm about to save them. So leave on a little bit of stalk. As with anything you pick, really, it's always a good idea to leave a bit of stalk on anyway, because that will start dying back. And as that dies back, as with anything, it creates a seal which will protect your fruit or your vegetables, whichever it might be. Oh, that's a very healthy sound. Can you hear that? Not the strimmer, that's off a different plant. Not the strimmer, but just that nice little snip. This plant then will be composted, basically. You can keep them, I want to have a big longer stem on that, so in we go. You can keep them over winter. They are short-lived perennial. Shall I bother with those? Yeah, I may as well, because I'm going to compost the plant. They are short-lived perennials, so you need to, if you are going to keep them over winter, make sure you've got them somewhere frost-free, because the fruit don't like the frost. But you don't need to really make them thrive, you know, they just need to be able to survive cooler temperatures. So this is as easy as it is. I tell you what, after all the stretching and palaver of collecting tomatoes and the very few beans that we've had, collecting them, this is a lovely chore. You know what, I'm not even going to call it a chore, I'm going to call it a pleasure. Okay, that's what I've got so far. I've changed my mind several times about the smaller ones now, so I'm going to bring all of these up to witchy corner despite the imminent danger of falling apples, and I'll show you what I do with them next. Okay, fingers crossed the apple gods are going to be kind to me today and not try and knock me out, but it's the best place to sit. So, okay, as I've just said, I've changed my mind already within the space of filming that segment in the greenhouse and bringing these pots up to here about what I'm going to do with the smaller chilies, because I did say you could leave them to overwinter. As long as they're in a frost-free place, you can leave them to overwinter and see. They're not an annual, but they're not really a trusted perennial. They're a short-lived perennial, so they need a little bit of care. But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to nurture it any longer. I'm literally going to take it out of its pot and unceremoniously sprinkle the compost over the buddleia. I like doing that, you know. The thing is, this is spent compost now, so I should really put it on a compost pile. I'll use it somewhere a bit more better. But what I'm going to do, I just want to pretty much get rid of the root ball. That root ball now has done its job, but I'm just going to clean off what I can, because I don't really want to take it off. Some people might snip the root ball off, make it look a little bit neater. I suppose it depends where you're going to hang it. If you're going to hang it somewhere where it's going to get stuff everywhere, you might be a bit bothered, but mine's just going in the shed. And there, we've got an upside down, rather sad looking chilli plant. And I am going to take that. Go away, waspy. I'm in the way of all the apples they're eating. There's so many windfall apples around here, honestly. They're all on the floor. We still haven't had time to come up. Our lives this last week or two have been ridiculous, which is why this video is coming out so late. But yeah, I think I said in the last one we'd be coming up very soon and picking the apples, but we haven't had time. But yeah, a little bit of string around that. And another little thing to add to my hanging rack, which will go in the shed, frost-free, and it means that anything that's left in those stems will drain down, if you like, into the remaining chilies, and they should dry quite nicely. So that's one way you can store them. You know, I am going to take some of those roots off. They are a little bit obtrusive. There, only a few. Like I say, they've done the job. You can trim them off if you want to, but look at that. That's a nice sight, isn't it? So you could do them that way. I'll be doing that with those 3 pots. If you notice as well, they're not in particularly big pots. Now, a couple of years ago, I did a bit of an experiment where I put them in different size pots to see if it affected the yield at all. And it did. Unsurprisingly, the ones in the smaller pots, you had fewer chillies. The ones in the bigger pots, much more chillies. So you can imagine if you were growing them in the ground, you'd have a bush 8, 9, 10 times the size of that, covered in chillies. But for me, as I say, for my personal use, that is absolutely fine. So those three with these funny little ones on are going to be hung. Not quite drawn and quartered, but hung. But if I show you why I only really want a few, different ways that I preserved them over the years. 2 years ago, I'm covered in soil. I'm surrounded by waspies eating these apples everywhere, and some, I don't know, anyway, it's all very natural. 2 years ago, I took it upon myself to dehydrate my chillies, which is basically what I said, you know, as simple as it sounds. They were dehydrated in like a 5-rack dehydrator, very, very basic one. They were one of the first things we ever have dehydrated. Let me come and show you and try not to slip on an apple. That would be comedy gold, wouldn't it? So to show you these are 2 years old. Now, hold on, put that between my legs there. Oh, hey. If you look at ones like that, okay, I wouldn't necessarily use that one. That might have gone too far. But I would certainly still use these, and they have just kept in this lovely little old screw top jar. I had about 5 of these. In fact, I tell a lie, I had about 4 of them, but one was like a double size one of those. And they have kept in there because they were so thoroughly dry. I've managed to keep those for 2 years and they're still going. No sort of damage at all. They seem fine. So that's a kilner jar. Yeah, I did have some little bit of greaseproof paper on the top, but that doesn't do anything. If you wanted to, if you weren't sure if they were completely dry, like I said about when we were drying our herbs and things, if you want to put a little silica sachet in or anything to absorb any extra moisture, any extra moisture, so even a bit of kitchen towel or toilet tissue or something like that. Witchy corner is really not a good idea at the minute. Go away. Something to absorb any extra moisture, but do make sure you check it every now and then, because if does it get a little bit damp, you don't want that to stay in the jar. So that's one way of doing it. They're 2 years old. I will say though, what I did find, and I've mentioned this before, dehydrating 5 trays of chilli in a confined space, i.e. your kitchen. My goodness, I did not know what was going on. My eyes were watering, and of course they were. I had chilli juice in the atmosphere all around me. So if you are going to dehydrate them, I recommend you put them near a window, or at the very least in a well ventilated space. Thing is, you tend to harvest them round about this time of year, a little bit later maybe, and it's usually a bit colder, so you're not likely to have your doors open and that sort of thing. But they worked. They were worth crying in the kitchen over. The other thing that I did then last year, and again, I didn't think I'd need any more chillies, but I did them anyway. Now, these were in a perfect little arrangement when I left the house, and they've been on hooks in my utility room, and this is what I'm going to do today. The other thing I did was make what's known as a Ristra. And I'm not sure what language it is. Is it Spanish? It basically just means like a garland, and you can do it with anything. You can do it with your garlic, with your chilies. Can't think of anything at all other than that. But yeah, anything that you put as like a decorative thing on a piece of string basically and let to hang. Now that does not look very decorative at the moment because it's snapped, because that was more like a necklace. I had it more like that. And I don't know if you can see on that, a lot of those, compared to the ones that were dehydrated, a lot of those have gone brown. Now I don't want to use those. I have got a choice. I have got some nice darker ones still, so I will be using those. But yeah, these were a real treat to do. They're so easy to do. They look brilliant. Again, I know I say they do look brilliant. Honestly, when they're done, they look really nice. I do say don't hang them in your kitchen. have them looking nice somewhere else, because you don't want them to get moist. Once you've gone to all the trouble of having them dried, there we are, they've just gone out like that. And they will just stay on. What I've got here is a very, very fine piece of cotton. You see, I shouldn't have taken them off the hooks, but they just hang like that. At the end, let's just imagine they hang like that. We'll ignore that bit at the end, the little funny tail. Okay, again, mixed results in a way, but I have got that they're not as small as the dehydrated ones. They've stayed much larger, which makes me think that they are still, they're not as dry. Okay, so the message there seems to be the drier they are, the smaller they get, because they lose more moisture, but the longer they keep. Okay, but what I am going to do today, I'm going to make a Ristra myself in front of your very eyes, but it might take a while to thread the needle. I don't believe it. Oh my goodness. If you're ever going to, I don't know, film yourself sewing anything or threading a needle, good idea to do it before you start. That's the longest it's ever taken. You know, at one point there, I even thought that there wasn't a hole in the needle. I thought I must have picked up a pin, but that just goes to show. Right, when you have threaded your needle, all you need to do, thread it double. So you put, oh dear me, fed up with this daft cotton now. All you need to do is make sure you thread it double so the loose ends meet up together, and do a double knot, if not a bit more, to make sure that when your bottom chilli hits the knot at the bottom, it's not going to suddenly decide to fall off. So maybe even put a bead, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Some sort of bead or seed head. That would be quite in keeping at the end here. Trying to do this double knot now, because I'm not having that thing coming off. Right, I've got that in a right old tangle, which is good, because it means it's not going to come on. And what you want to be doing, I'll come and see you again. I hope you notice my very, very wobbly chair. Oh no, my microphone's going off. Okay, microphone's probably out of battery by now. Right, okay, let's have a look. Let me show you. You want to be putting your needle, you don't want to put it through that bit, that's too close to the fruit. You want to basically be putting it through the stem, not just like I've done. You want it to go right through the middle, not through the side where it's going to split, and then literally thread that through like that. And that should, if you made a nice old tangle at the end like I have, hang like that. Okay, and then basically you just carry on doing that. It's a really quite a nice job to do. It's like, you know, if you've never done onions before and you're really worried about stringing your onions or your garlic, and you're worried about getting it wrong, and then all of a sudden you get the knack. And it's quite addictive, and you keep thinking with your onion strings, I'm just going to put one more on here, just going to see how it is. And it's really quite a nice thing to create, but you can see there, that's how easy it is to do. She says, after 10 minutes trying to thread a blooming needle. Right, okay, you don't have to worry about what size they are, you don't have to worry how ripe they are. It is just, all you are doing is, you see I've got them slightly staggered there. All you are doing is enabling them to ripen further wherever you want to hang them. So whereas those are going to be hanging upside down on the plant themselves, these are going to be hanging on a string in probably the utility room, which is where the others were. So yeah, I don't want to get the dehydrator out again just for these, and with the kerfuffle of the chilli last time, I'm not tempted to do it again, and I have got enough here to just keep me going. But this is just something that's nice doing. And for me it's great because it combines sewing, which I'm, oh, butterflies, which I'm absolutely loving at the moment. I've said before, I'm very, very seasonal with so many things, quite fickle. And so I started my sewing already as soon as it started to feel autumnal, and I started to light the fire again. I thought, right, okay, what am I going to sew? What am I going to knit? Get all the crafts out. So this combines the two because you're making something, it's preserving something. And if you have got enough chillies, I mean, these will be for our own use, but you just imagine, you see how that's starting to look quite pretty there. If you did have different colours, actually, that would be quite nice. So if you did have your purple ones in there, actually, yeah, so just stagger them as you go around, and you can see, you might get the odd one falls off if you haven't put the string right through the middle. But can you see how that is just getting to be quite a nice little thing? Yeah, you could just do a short one of these and give it as a present. I mean, I'm talking about the potions from the plot, which is the series talking about different salves and balms and soaps and things we can make from the plot. But if you're thinking of giving out food as presents, how about some jars of chilli jam? With just a couple of these on the tag, or a jar of your pasta sauce. If you're anything like me, you'll be absolutely fed up of processing the tomatoes at the moment. But if you've managed to preserve some in a few jars, how nice would that be to just have your basic tomato passata with a few of those, or a couple of those, dangling off the lid in an artistic fashion. Maybe some other dried herbs, so some dried thyme. Maybe even, I don't know how you do this though, maybe even shove a garlic bulb on the top, stick it on the lid at the top. You could just do anything, you know, but these, the beauty of these is they're just so decorative. And the beauty of these particular ones is there's not very many for me to do. But can you see the effect we're getting there? I'm hoping you're able to pick up the sun shining on them. I just think that's really pretty. Anyway, that's called a Ristra. So that is something else you can do with your chillies. So if you wanted to, other ways you can use them. You can just keep them fresh in the fridge. They will last, they say a couple of weeks, but they will last a lot longer than that, I'm sure. You can freeze them fresh. No preparation at all. Just put them in a, I don't know, I wouldn't even bother open freezing them because they're not going to stick together. Just put them in a tub in your freezer. They should last a good few months, if not a year. You could process them into something like chilli jam. Add them to things like your tomato passata, so you've got like more of a chilli version. Or, now this is something I've never tried before, you can preserve them in oil. I know Patricia Townsend put some pictures of some lovely jars of chillies, or a jar of chillies that she'd preserved in oil, and they just looked lovely. And again, what a beautiful present to give to someone if you wanted to, but also something that looks really nice on your kitchen shelf. So yeah, look how quick this is to do. How do you preserve your chillies? Let me know. I tell you what, like I say, it has been, we have had one hectic week or two. We have got so many things to do up at the plot. I know we're coming to the end of the season, but we've still got things like, don't want that to go through there, picking the apples. I know we've still got time. Checking those squash. When we had a bit of a frost the other night, we were desperately worried about Peter and his friends, but just check now, they're absolutely fine. So yeah, but they will need, in a couple of weeks, they all need to be coming in. And really, even though it's the end of this year, if you like, at the plot, in many ways, it's also the start of getting things ready for next year. So, you know, I want to be looking at getting the garlic in, getting the garlic ready. I have bought some garlic so far, only a few bits, but I'm determined to have a good garlic season this year. Broad beans, I may, oh that's a big one, that should have gone lower down. I may or may not overwinter them. I planted them really late in, I think it was April, even some in May this year, and they did absolutely fine. Obviously they were later than everyone else's, you know, everyone else had dug theirs up by the time ours had started podding, beaning, broad beaning, whatever they did. But things like that need to be done, need to be thought about. I know a lot of you are starting to plan your seed lists and put out videos as to what seeds are the best to grow. What are you going to grow over winter? What are you going to grow over winter? We've probably got more in the ground this year that we're going to be able to dig up over the winter than we've ever had, and I'm thrilled about that. And that, I've got to be honest, that is down to Mike and his roots bed, because we've actually got quite a healthy selection of parsnips and carrots and beetroot. We still haven't dug up all of our potatoes, but we've got the Cavalier Nero and leeks that will all see us through the winter. So, well, fingers crossed. Let's hope they do. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you do with your chilies. Let me know what you're growing in your garden now. It's been lovely, you know, we've had a whole load of new subscribers again, both here and on Facebook and on Instagram actually, and it's just lovely to meet new people. Although it's virtually, I do like, I know it sounds dead corny, but I do like to think we're a bit of a family here, and we do look out for each other. And yeah, it's a really nice place to be. So I've cackled enough, if you know what that means, and I'm going to go. But yeah, really pleased. I've got my Ristra, I've got my upside down chilli. I've still got ones from 2 years ago in a pot over there. Life is good. Okay, so if you enjoyed that, I hope it's been useful to you. I hope you can thread a needle a little bit easier than I can anyway. I will come more prepared next time. But with that, I'm going to go and have a little look around. I'm sitting here now looking at a load of raspberries that look like I'm going to have to feast on them before I go home. As I say, links to Instagram and Facebook are below. Please give this a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed and you like it, subscribe. If there's anything else you need to know or you would like to get in touch about, my email address is below as well, so feel free to just drop me an email. And yeah, look forward to hearing you. I look forward to hearing from you and maybe seeing you on some other platforms. You know what, I've said it before, those white butterflies, they are quite beautiful, you know, as long as they keep off my cabbage. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go. Okay, so enjoy this autumn sunshine if you can, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.